Since 2019, migrants trying to win asylum in the U.S. waited out their cases in Mexico under the so-called Migrant Protection Protocols. The policy, instituted during the Trump administration, put about 70,000 migrants in legal limbo and exposure to violent conditions in often dangerous drug cartel-dominated Mexican border cities. The Biden administration sought to do away with the policy when it assumed control, but lawsuits by Republican-controlled states, namely Texas and Missouri, blocked winding down the policy until the Supreme Court sided with the White House in July. The Biden administration had fewer MPP cases in the system. Department of Homeland Security officials told Reuters that asylum seekers and MPP will be allowed to cross into the U.S. and stay while their cases are considered. The U.S. government is still expelling the vast majority of migrants who cross the southwest border illegally under the pandemic-related public health order called Title 42. From October of 2021 until June, the Department of Homeland Security says it has recorded almost 1.75 million encounters with migrants along the southwest border. Many of those are repeat attempts to gain entry into the United States. Texas's Governor Greg Abbott has spent billions along the border deploying Texas Department of Public Safety officers and National Guard to enforce immigration laws at a state level. He's also ordered the busing of migrants who are allowed to stay under humanitarian exemptions from cities like Del Rio or Eagle Pass, which have scant infrastructure to cope with migrant relief, to places like New York and Washington, D.C.
Could be dozens, could be hundreds in those cities where the cities had no capability whatsoever to be able to handle those migrants.
Reports show that in May and June, the state spent more than $1 million sending thousands of migrants out of Texas. KXAS in Dallas reporting that the trips amounted to $1,400 per person. Newsy has asked the governor's office about the cost to date of that program, which requires bus charters and security. In April, the governor claimed private donations would help defray the bills.
It likely will mean that it will be no cost to the state of Texas for providing these buses.
His own website shows that as of July 22nd, the state has raised a fraction of that cost, around $118,000. In Washington, D.C., a migrant advocacy group says the Texas tactic is mean-spirited.
It's a cruel political stunt because he's basically weaponizing immigrants and aiming them at D.C.
But Abel Nunez says the bus trips are in many cases helping migrants travel cost-free to their connections in the U.S. Groups like his helping people transition.
The immigrants in the buses, when they realize, that they're kind of political pawns, on sort of a larger argument, they may not be happy about that, but they're happy that they're closer to their final destination.
We also have to look at this in terms of we have an election coming up here in Texas. Governor Abbott really trying hard. Pardon me, we have some lightning, trying hard to get reelected. So he's trying to frame this issue on his terms, exporting, quote unquote, the Texas problem to blue cities. Reality is more complicated because this has been going on for months. And while the mayors of New York and Washington have expressed some anxieties, the reality on the ground is that you have charitable groups and non-governmental organizations assuming the burden and helping these people get acclimated and reconnect with their family members, quite oftentimes in areas along the East Coast. Chance?